A very good morning, everyone. This is a video on regulation of respiration. Thanks to Dr. Mirza sir for this wonderful PowerPoint. See, the name itself kept chemoregulation of respiration. Even there are other neural, non-neural regulation of respiration. You go through your textbook; they are very simple. But the most important control of respiration occurs by the chemical changes of your body fluids, especially chemical changes in your body fluid. That's why this part of regulation is extremely important. We'll keep it very simple this class. Before that, we should know where are the respiratory centers. Mainly, they are also same like your CVS centers present in your brainstem. There are mainly lower and upper respiratory centers. Lower being your medullary centers, upper being your pontine centers. In medulla, there are two group of nuclei: dorsal respiratory group and ventral respiratory group. Dorsal respiratory group mainly gives inspiratory stimulus. Gives inspiratory stimulus to the muscles of respiration via phrenic nerve, which is arising from the spinal cord, and also to the external intercostal, supplying the intercostals, which are coming from the spinal cord. To those nerve cell bodies, the impulses will go from the inspiratory and expiratory group. So ventral group mainly is concerned with the expiration. Okay, dorsal respiratory group mainly is nothing but your nucleus tractus solitarius, which is one of the vagal nucleus. Ventral respiratory group ambiguous and retroambiguous. So briefly, I will tell you dorsal respiratory group. When it is stimulated, it stimulates inspiration. Ventral respiratory group will cause expiration. That means inhibition of the inspiration will directly leads to expiration, because expiration is a passive process. And in bonds, there are two centers: aneustic center and pneumotaxic center. When aneustic center is stimulated, it inhibits the inspiratory group. When pneumotaxic center is stimulated, it inhibits the aneustic center. That means what happens? The pneumotaxic center is stimulated, aneustic center is inhibited. So the inhibitory effect of aneustic center on the inspiratory group is lifted above. Okay. Normally, this won't work directly. The continuous impulses occurs from the dorsal inspiratory group. When they don't fire impulses, expiration occurs. When this group is stimulated, this will be inhibited, or else directly the muscles also inhibited. Aneustic center, when it is stimulated, it will inhibit the inspiratory group, but normally it is under the inhibition of pneumotaxic center. This is how the rhythmic ventilation of your respiratory system, rhythmic ventilation occurs in your respiratory system. This inhibits this. The inhibitory effect of this will be lifted over, then there will be inspiration. Again, the inhibitory effect will occur, and everything, please go through your textbook. We'll discuss mainly about the chemical regulation of respiration, where there are mainly two types of chemoreceptors concerned with the respiration. They are central and peripheral. Central chemoreceptors, they are mainly present in the anterior surface of the medulla, where there are your respiratory centers. In the center of the medulla, there is reticular activating system, and above this reticular activating system, there are your respiratory centers and also your cardiovascular centers. So on the ventral side, that means anterior side, towards the side of your face, neck. So the central chemoreceptors, they mainly responds to the partial pressures of carbon dioxide and H plus. Whereas peripheral chemoreceptors, they are mainly present in the carotid and aortic bodies, which are present separately outside the carotid sinus and aortic arch. So in that, there are peripheral chemoreceptors. They mainly respond to the partial pressure of oxygen. So central chemoreceptors, they are mainly present in the ventral surface, anterior surface of the medulla. Now, most important thing, they respond to the carbon dioxide levels of cerebrospinal fluid, right? Medulla is directly exposed to the cerebrospinal fluid, but and they mainly respond to the H plus levels. H plus only directly stimulates the central chemoreceptors. But from your blood, when there is increased H plus levels in your blood, those H plus cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. So instead of that, the carbon dioxide, which can easily crosses the blood-brain barrier, goes into the CSF, undergoes this hydration, forming the H plus. H plus will stimulate the central chemoreceptor, which will further stimulate the respiratory centers. So what happens when your tissue metabolism increases? Carbon dioxide enters the blood. This carbon dioxide diffuses the BBB, enters the CSF, undergoes hydration, forms H plus. H plus will stimulate the respiratory center, increasing the ventilation. So that means carbon dioxide levels increases in the blood. Similarly, H plus levels in the CSF increases. This stimulates the respiration. So as the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the venous blood arterial increases, the respiratory centers are stimulated, especially respiratory rate increases, increasing the alveolar ventilation. Now, what happens in the peripheral chemoreceptors? They are mainly present in the aortic bodies, which are just present in the aortic arch, and carotid bodies, which are present just above the carotid sinus. Separately, they are present. Okay, your baroreceptors are different. They are present within the arterial walls. These are chemoreceptors. They are present outside the arterial wall. They will receive their own specialized blood supply, and their blood supply will be extremely high. So they senses the mainly even the lowest amount of changes in the oxygen partial pressure levels. So this is a ultrastructure of carotid body. It has mainly type 1 and type 2 glomus cell. This glomus cell is connected by a glossopharyngeal efferents, a ring nerve. Okay. Especially the carotid body is connected to glossopharyngeal nerves, and aortic body is connected to vagus nerve. These are the afferents, sensory part. Okay, these are the sensory part. They don't need any efferent activity. Efferent activity has to go to the lungs, respiratory apparatus. So the afferents from the carotid body being a ring nerve of glossopharyngeal nerve, and afferent from the aortic body is vagus nerve. They goes to the respiratory center to stimulate the respiratory. See, glomus cell has very typical structure. It is a modified, you can say, as a modified neuroendocrine cell, and it has dopamine secretion capacity. This is very, very important. The neurotransmitter secreted by a glomus cell is dopamine. Same like your adrenal medulla, it is a modified neuroendocrine cell. It is a modified ganglionic cell of autonomic nervous system which secretes catecholamines. Like that, glomus cell also secretes dopamine. But what is the stimulation for this secretion of dopamine into the exterior? And this dopamine stimulating the nerve ending of glossopharyngeal nerve is reduced oxygen levels. So hypoxia around the glomus cell will stimulate the glomus cell. It causes inhibition of the potassium channels in the surface of glomus cell. Somehow hypoxia, especially hypoxia, reduced oxygen content in the blood that supplies glomus cells. I told you glomus cell receive its own blood supply. Carotid body receive its own blood supply from the directly from the systemic arteries. So in that blood, when oxygen levels decrease, so this oxygen will inhibit the potassium channel. When potassium channels are inhibited, what happens? The membrane will undergo depolarization because inside RMP, resting membrane potential will go towards positive value. Calcium channels open. Calcium influx occurs. This causes neurotransmitter exocytosis of the dopamine vesicles to the exterior. So this dopamine will go and act on the glossopharyngeal nerve, causing action potential, firing the glossopharyngeal nerve. These impulses will go to the inspiratory centers, firing your inspiratory centers, increasing the rate of inspiration. So here there is another advantage because this releases dopamine. In Parkinsonism nowadays, they can simply transplant the person's glomus cell into your nigrostriatal pathway near the substantia nigra. If you transplant this person's own glomus cells, there won't be any transplant rejection, and this can release dopamine, which is required in your Parkinsonism, especially at your nigrostriatal pathways. So that is, additional advantage. So if the arterial PO2, study this graph in reverse, the arterial PO2 decreases, the carotid body nerve impulses, which are going from the glossopharyngeal nerve, will increase. You can see the exponentially increase when the oxygen partial pressure levels decreases. As the oxygen partial pressure level decreases, hypoxia occurs, carotid body firing glossopharyngeal nerves increases exponentially, increasing the respiration. So peripheral chemoreceptors, mainly the carotid body and aortic bodies, they respond to low oxygen levels, whereas central chemoreceptors, they mainly respond to high PCO2 and H plus levels. Okay, this is important chemoregulation of the respiration. Thank you. Go through your textbook about the remaining non-neural regulation, Ehring-Brewer's reflex, all those things easily you can understand. If you have any doubt, you simply message me. I can explain. Thank you.